about the ongoing proposals put forward by American educated scholar Dr. Harsha de Silva, who is a member of the parliament from the Samagijana Balavegaya, Sri Lanka's opposition. He says in order to overcome the current foreign debt, payments of the country, Sri Lanka he advises the government of Sri Lanka to go for the international debt restructuring. Well, the thing is, Sri Lanka doesn't have, do not have any, foreign debt issue, because when giving foreign loans, it is both the lender and the borrower who have come into agreement about the payments. It's not only the borrower in international sovereign debt. It is both the lender from the foreign country as well as the borrower, both come into agreement to work towards a win-win situation. So, but when in international sovereign debt or international sovereign loans, when the lenders and their political authority work to politically undermine the government and then drag the issue, and thereby in order to politically act upon the country's government, which the lender's country do not have a preference, and then undermining the payments is wrong. So this is why Sri Lanka must not go for any debt restructuring. Debt restructuring means something done to mostly to help the lender, not the borrower. Because debt restructuring means either a prolonged, extended period for the existing foreign loans, or it's a reduction in the interest rate, or sometimes there are various mechanisms of debt restructuring, sovereign debt restructuring, or sometimes giving the lender in the foreign country equity, or a share in the capital of the borrowers' countries where the such international loans have been invested. Now, for example, Sri Lanka gave China the full control of the Hambantota International Port, but it's a strategic decision. It's not just a debt restructuring program. So here, even though there are various issues regarding debt restructuring is done in order to avoid the negative effect on the lender's country. That is the reason, and it's not going to help the borrower at all, because when debt restructuring is done, what happens is it's a black mark for the borrowing country of its inability. It shows to the whole world give an impression to the whole world that the borrowing country is unable to pay the international foreign loans. But in this case, it's not the case. Sri Lanka, based on this certain false propaganda of the LTT, and also the Sri Lanka's opposition parties, United National Party, and also the economists like Samagijana Balavegaya, like Dr. Harsha de Silva, the political organizations in foreign countries have purposefully, willfully undermined the certain obligations on the World Trade Organization, and also has influenced the US dollar supply into the country, because US dollar is not printed here. US dollar is printed by the Federal Reserve Bank in America. So, under international trade, we have agreed for the global trade policy of the US government's globalization policy. And accordingly, Sri Lanka, because globalization means international trade between the countries. So international trade means import and export. So that was the policy of the US government, US State Department, that was promoted before the pandemic. So when these policies are promoted, obviously Sri Lanka rupee cannot be used for international trade. International trade has to be carried out in the prominent currency, that is the US dollar. So that's under those obligations only Sri Lanka entered into an agreement with the US proposal on globalization. So accordingly, if after doing that, after all those obligations have been violated by the foreign lending institutions, just to politically harm the country's image and thereby go for a separation in the northeast, well, all such debt restructuring programs are rejected, right? The thing is, debt restructuring undermines the reputation of our country, and it's only option for the lender who thinks because of their actions to pressurize the borrower, in illegal way. If the borrower goes bankrupt, what happens is, or if the Sri Lanka will not go bankrupt, but if the borrower do not pay the money, reflects bad upon the lender mostly. That is the reason. So I think Sri Lanka must not, take this issue seriously at all.